at first I saw it on Facebook and I thought, oh, this is a hoax. And then of course I saw some more posts, and so I thought, oh, well, I guess I better get out there. And so on the way out, I'm thinking, first thing I'm thinking about is photographs, and you know, wondering what the status of those were. And then, of course, being rather vain, I thought about all those 2007 Isanti County history books. But you know, then I thought, well, wait a minute, this is kind of minuscule. And so, you know, and then really started thinking about, you know, all of the files about people's stories, documents about various businesses, organization records, and of course my bias is the archival material. So then, you know, then I started thinking about, oh yeah, then there were costumes, and then there were, you know, oodles and oodles of things that were really, you know, kind of one of a kind. So, you know, it's you know, just horribly devastating. And then to think about the number of hours of work that people have put in to just gather this stuff and organize it, and you know, and you know, 90% of that work was really through volunteers, you know, with the help of volunteers. So you know, it's just a huge loss. Well, actually, it's looking like a lot of the photographs can be restored. That the two fellows that are here from the Minnesota Historical Society today who work with reclamation and restoration have been just extremely helpful in doing sort of triage stuff and assessing things with somebody, you know, with Kathy or myself or Jim Johnson or other people that have worked with all this stuff to give it a 1, 2, 3. First, number 1 being high priority, want to save it. Number 2, be nice to save it. Number 3, we know it's not going to be salvageable at all. So the next step then is to go through, pick out the number 1 stuff. It's wet, it's charred, but this, like the photographs in file folders in the metal filing cabinets, they might be a little, they could be a little wet, they could be charred around the edges, but a lot of them are you know, are really salvageable. And so all that wet stuff then is, the first order of business is to get that stuff into a big freezer truck, and then the stuff will get frozen, and then it'll be hauled. This freezer truck will take it to a facility that not only they freeze it, but then they freeze dry it, so that when it comes out of this process, it's totally dry. And so this, of course, comes with a price. So that's why we're very careful about what kinds of things we're actually saying, okay, this is worth the time, effort, and money. And of course, as Bob Herskovitz from the Minnesota Historical Society said, the real work begins when it comes out of the freeze-dried place, because that's when you have to start reorganizing. And again, after that, there you still may find some stuff that really isn't salvageable. So while this seems like a huge undertaking at the moment, you know, the work is really going to be happening down the road.
Is this something that our insurance, that the Historical Society insurance will cover, or is this going to have to come from private donations and the Historical Society's money?
The Historical Society, as I understand it, has 2 policies, one for the building, one for the contents. The building insurance seems pretty adequate at this point. The contents, of course, is, you know, how do you put a value on this stuff? I mean, you can put a value on the desks, computers, and that kind of thing, but on the archival things. So that's still kind of up in the air, I think, as to how much of that will actually cover the reclamation. And so, yeah, I'm sure that within the next few days there will be some calls put out for donations and that sort of thing. The first thing, of course, the Historical Society office has to get relocated someplace, and the basement of the library has been offered for that, for a temporary office space, and so it's just been amazing. The people that have come forward. So, you know, overwhelming, with everything from hamburgers from Arby's to, you know, the office, to the portable toilet, to the tent rental, to, you know, all of these things. One of the things kind of that you wouldn't think about is one of the things they asked about were bread trays from the bakery, these big bread trays. Well, that's because there's a lot of flat stuff in there. For instance, the stuff in the big flat file is pretty pretty salvageable. It's hardly touched, but it's wet. So they wanted these big trays to put that stuff on, you know. So somebody went and got a bunch of trays from Herman's, and somebody got freezer paper from the Bram locker, and, you know, so it's pretty amazing. Well, I mean, I suppose one could say they've lost, you know, 150 years of white man's history, but you know, in some ways that's I mean, there's an awful lot of people out there today who have a lot of historical information in their memories, in their minds, possibly in documents, whether it's, you know, family histories that have been written or whatever. Photographs the same way. I mean, there's you know, what the Historical Society has had in its collection is, you know, really probably just scratching the surface of the kinds of material that is out there that could really help to tell the story of the county. What I think this does, probably, well, for the Historical Society first and then for the community at large, is that as things now are going to be recollected and you know, accessioned and that sort of thing, there will be some probably much better guidelines for the focus of what kinds of things can best tell that story. And I think there will be a real emphasis on doing a lot more electronically with digitization, so that, for instance, the membership records here were all you know, entered electronically and onto a program, and all of that information was on a separate drive off-site. So so that tells you, I mean, that even if you lose the actual hard copies, if things are digitized and you know, there will also be many more precautions taken, I'm quite sure, for eventualities, you know, such as this.